ladies and gentlemen, it is safe to say that Wuthering Waves is launching some very big news recently because we've got 2 drip markets for 2 of the upcoming 5-star limited characters in version 2.3. We already had Zani and her reveal of her 2 forms and her ultra greatsword, all of that good fun stuff. And now, of course, we do have Ciaccona. And boy, oh boy, am I excited for this character, because I think all of you are pretty familiar with how animated, how emotive she is across the 2.2 story quest. We only got to see her for, a little bit at the start, but I think she left a very lasting impression across the player base. So with that, let's just go ahead, dive right into what we're going to be seeing over here and break it down. Get some speculation about her kit going. We've got some more details about, what attribute she is, what weapon type she's going to use, and some of her potential roles on teams moving forward. So with that, we've got post-lament whatever. Off we go. May my poems light the way on your path ahead. So you can kind of see that she's going to have a bit more of like a supportive role. She is a bard, Ciaccona, the bard of Renacida. I think like right off the bat, a lot of people are assuming that she really isn't going to be like a main DPS oriented character. Maybe even a healer, maybe a support, but probably, based off the roles that we've been seeing other characters have, probably a sub DPS, and I'll get into why later. Ciaccona, the bard of Renacida, is a free-spirited, romantic, sincere, and passionate, or is free-spirited, romantic, sincere, and passionate. We saw a lot of that during the start of the 2.2 quest. On her journey, she sang radiant poems of saints and heroes, weaving tales of people, miracles, turmoil, and suffering, along with the sorrow of death and farewell. I think it's pretty safe to say we saw like a lot of like the radiant poem part at the start of the quest, but not a lot about this whole like sorrow of death and farewell. So that's definitely like a darker side to her character that we're probably going to explore a lot more in the upcoming 2.3 quest, her story quest as well. It is the anniversary after all, and there are some people speculating that on top of all of this, she might actually be a free limited character. And here is a little bit as to why. So, as we've all found out, this was posted about 11 hours ago, and directly after posting, we do see that Zani is Spectrum and Gauntlets, so yeah, the yellow wasn't just a bait. What we're seeing for Ciaccona over here is that she's going to be arrow, and then also use pistols. And so this is going to be important for a couple of reasons. And so we've already like seen a little bit about Ciaccona. We see like what's going on in her splash chart. We see that she's probably going to have like some type of like after image, maybe a coordinated attack. These kind of like pale versions of her in the background that are like wielding various different instruments. I think this is like I don't know what that is, but that looks like a symbol, the things that you like the monkey bangs together. It looks like she's going to have like a backup squad of like other instrument, like members of her band that are probably going to be like supporting the team through music. Maybe a little bit of like Astra Yao or a little bit of that Robin thing from HSR going on. Maybe she has like some customized music she'll play. Maybe you'll be able to, change the song that she plays as well. I do imagine that just based off the role that we're seeing over here, and then the fact that she uses pistols and the fact that she's arrow, well, she's probably going to be paired up with Arrow Rover. And we all know a couple of things when it comes to Arrow Rover. First and foremost, the fact that they're going to be using the Arrow Erosion set. Maybe she'll be using the Arrow Erosion set. She might be better on something like, let's just say, Empyrean Anthem, that buffs coordinated attacks, or she might actually be better on something like Moonlit Clouds, which is going to like buff a member of her team. The reason why I'm saying that she might have a fair amount of synergy with this whole thing going on over here is the fact that she's arrow, she's pistol, and she's probably going to apply Arrow Erosion. The reason why I'm saying that she's probably going to apply Arrow Erosion is simple. We have Arrow Rover, who's coming into the game with the ability to convert different elemental debuffs into erosion, and then also raise the cap of Arrow Erosion stacks from 3 to 6 through their outro skill. Unfortunately, what Arrow Rover doesn't have is the ability to apply Arrow Erosion by themselves with no other applicators on the team. And so essentially, the only way to use them right now and apply Arrow Erosion is to combine them with Confession Phoebe. And this is probably one of the worst team comps in the game. If we're frankly being honest here, it doesn't do anything at all. And so Arrow Rover desperately needs an Arrow Erosion applier on their team. And with Ciaccona being Arrow, it's pretty much all the signs are there that she's going to be working with this debuff. Otherwise, Arrow Rover is going to feel like one of the most pointless characters in the game for quite a while, until maybe like 2.4 or even 2.5. And so another reason why I think she's going to be a sub DPS is the fact that she's pistols. And with Static Mist in the game, this is one of the best free-to-play options, and it is amazing sub DPS option for various characters, where it increases ER by 16%, which is super important for sub DPS characters. And then whenever you use an outro skill, the incoming Resonator's attack is increased by 12.5%. When that basically gives it that buffing boost, this is at rank 2, so it's like 10 and like 12 over here if you don't have rank 2. This is an amazing buff that you're able to apply to the main DPS on your team, and it gives anybody wielding this a lot of potential, the sub DPS role. And so when it comes to Ciaccona, and when it comes to, you know, knowing that she's arrow and pistols, I would put money on this being the main way that she's going to work. And so I'm thinking that she's going to have those coordinated attacks again because of whatever's going on over here. And maybe, just based on the fact that these animals are like, you know, sleeping, they're having like a good time, maybe she'll have some healing built into her kit too. When it comes to like the actual pistols and what we're going to be seeing, I don't know if she's actually going to shoot anything. I feel like the pistols might just be like cosmetic, like rectifiers are cosmetic for a lot of characters. She might just be, you know, like, you know, strumming her stuff, you know, playing a couple of tunes, and then like musical blasts will like hit the enemy. So we'll just have to see what her animations look like as we get closer and closer to her reveal. But a lot of unique combat styles, a lot of uniqueness overall when it comes to how, you know, she's being displayed in the game. And I'm hoping, I'm praying, because she's arrow, because she's a 5-star limited unit, she's also going to be a potential best in slot buffer for Gian. Let's be real here, ladies and gentlemen. Gian is the one character in the game that doesn't really have a 5-star limited support. He doesn't have one. Every other character kind of just does. Jinxie actually has 2. And so at this point, Brother Man has been waiting since version 1.0, since the launch of the game, for a sub DPS to work with him. And I'm praying that Ciaccona has like some sort of interesting mechanic that involves attack speed. I want her to like motivate her allies to like attack faster, and fast-paced music, that sort of stuff, that's like one of like the traditional buffs that like gets people like moving faster, attacking faster, that sort of thing. Because boy, oh boy, this dude with attack speed is absolutely one of the most beautiful things in the game to witness. Just him twirling around faster, you know, than the eye can see, and just doing a shit ton of Qinglong attacks. So that's my headcanon, that's my cope for what we're gonna see moving forward. Now let's get into a little bit more. Ignore this comment by Tectone in the bottom right. Let's see a little bit more about what she's looking like from the teasers. So we've got her full animated reveal over here. Let's take a look at it. Okay. Nice. Yep, she's ready to sing, and she looks like she's using a completely different instrument over here. This looks like a microphone. So she's like, she's got the lute, she's got the cymbals. Maybe that's the microphone that she's using over... Yeah, it's the same photo. So she's already got like 3 different instruments that she's gonna work with. Maybe that's 3 different forms, or maybe it's just like the different types of coordinated attacks that she's gonna be launching out, or like some other sort of effect that's gonna be in her kit. So that's already like a super cool thing right off the bat. Now let's get into the other reveal over here. Yeah, we got like a book opening up. Legs. More legs. And some humming. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty relaxing. That was pretty smooth. Yeah, that was pretty smooth. And I think the lighting actually looks... no, they're the no, it's the same photo. I kind of wish her eyes were open over here like they are over here. She's got nice eyes. She's got nice eyes, as we all saw during the 2.2 quest. She's got like those little holes. She got like little like stars in the center. But yeah, I do think she is going to be an arrow erosion applier. I do think that she's probably going to be the first character that we can actually synergize with Arrow Rover. And the most important thing about it, again, is that she's going to make Gusts of Welkin actually usable. Because this Sonata set, right now in version 2.1, basically does not exist. Like, there's no point in actually building this right now. Because, again, like I mentioned, the only way to inflict arrow erosion is to pair with Confession Phoebe, and the team sucks. And there needs to be a way to actually apply this so that the team can actually get the whole buff over here. And so, yeah, that's going to be the whole meta overview. We've looked at all of the art. Now let's talk a little bit about, well, the path moving forward. And I'm going to bring up this trailer again. You might have seen it when I covered Zani a little bit earlier in the day, but as Kuro teased this for version 2.1, they had this after the Overture story trailer. And in this story trailer, they essentially listed out in order all of the 5-star limited characters that were coming after Rosia. We had our overview with Phoebe over here. Then we get into good old Captain Brandt. Then we ended up with Cantarella, the Blessed Maiden. Now we got Zani, who's coming up as the first limited character 2.3, then Ciaccona. And this has all basically been confirmed. The order that Kuro revealed this in a trailer that was released about a month ago, that is the exact order that they're going to be releasing all the new units. And so a lot of people are speculating that either Zani or Ciaccona is going to be the free limited 5-star that might be coming out with the anniversary. My money is actually on Ciaccona. And the reason for that is Arrow Rover needs a partner. Everyone got Arrow Rover for free, and they're kind of like not very usable until they get somebody with erosion. And so Ciaccona might just be the perfect target for a free limited 5-star for the entire player base, because now they can actually use Arrow Rover. But there are going to be a lot of people that will pull both regardless. So we got that going on. We're at the end of 2.3 with Ciaccona. And so that means the next resonator that we're seeing over here, we all know this is Cartithia. We've all seen this from the 2.2 quest. This is Cartithia. And of course, Fleur-de-lis, the other form of Cartithia. And at this point, I think that Kuro Games, pattern recognition has to be a thing that we recognize in the player base. Cartithia is going to be in 2.4, right? I think that that question has basically been completely answered at this point. Cartithia is going to be probably the first limited character in 2.4, and then maybe she'll run by herself. Maybe she'll have a couple of reruns with her. Maybe there will be an extra character announced for 2.4 after her, but all signs are pointing to her being the next limited character after Ciaccona. And Kuro's done. I mean, when we look back at it, right, knowing that this was released a month ago, they've done an amazing, amazing job of teasing all of this, building up all of that hype, and getting us ready for the climax of Verticida, the climax of the story with like the Order, and the Sentinel, and then the Threnodian, all of that good stuff. It is going to be a very, very, very exciting time for WoWA players. So with that all covered, let's just get into some general house cleaning stuff when it comes to a lot of the other reveals that we've had. And that is, of course, the reveal of Zani with her attribute and weapon type. At this point, I think it's pretty clear that when it comes to Zani, she is going to be the one character, right? That's probably going to be joining Phoebe over as a Spectral Frazzle user/abuser, focused on getting that crit rate and then, you know, building out those stacks of Frazzle to get that spectral damage increase. Like I mentioned, Arrow Rover is a free character that a lot of people are probably going to use with Ciaccona, who's probably going to apply Arrow Erosion. And so what that means is that if you're not using, or if you're using Arrow Rover, you can't be running Spectral Rover. And Spectral Rover currently is like the only way for this character to reasonably function. Without having Spectral Rover on her team, this character is just straight up bad. It's just straight up not good. And so what that means is we've seen how Frazzle works. Maybe Zani has a way to like apply Frazzle and build it up herself while also like dealing damage without the sort of like form switch 22-second annoying ass cooldown or 24-second that Phoebe has built into her kit. And maybe Zani is like a bit more of like a self-sustainer. But the idea is probably that with Spectral Rover changing over to Arrow and not being able to be Spectral anymore, Zani is likely going to come in as like the other side of the Frazzle equation. Somebody that can either build it up or take advantage of the massive number of stacks that Phoebe can apply whenever she's in her confession mode. You can see over here, confession enhancement, apply 5 stacks of Spectral Frazzle to the target's hit. She spams these, and then, you know, when she uses her liberation in confession mode, she applies 8 stacks of Frazzle. And so maybe she's going to be able to use Absolution and Confession with Zani, but that's basically where everybody's mind is going at this point, because without Spectral Rover, you don't really have anything that applies Frazzle, and you can't really use Phoebe. And they just introduced Arrow Rover. So that's basically it. That's going to be the run through. But yeah, that'll be all of the drip marketing for version 2.3, unless Kuro decides to do something absolutely fucking crazy and release a third limited character for version 2.3. But yeah, I think we covered all the details. We covered all the speculation, all the different kits and mechanics, that sort of stuff. And let's just say it's going to be a very, very, very exciting patch as we get into version 2.3. I love this character. So with that, let me know what you all think. Peace.